We now come to the urgent question. Andrew Griffith.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Business and Trade if he will make a statement on the position of the Chairman of the Competition and Markets Authority.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following the resignation of the Chair of the Competition and Markets Authority, Marcus Bockerink, the Secretary of State has appointed Doug Ger as the interim Chair for a period of up to 18 months, while a new permanent Chair is appointed. The Secretary of State has expressed his gratitude for Marcus's leadership of the Board of the CMA since his appointment in September 2022 and the work of the CMA in that time, particularly in response to cost of living pressures. As the Prime Minister set out in his speech at the International Investment Summit, this government will make sure that every regulator in the UK focuses on growth. With his background and experience as an entrepreneur and business leader, along with a clear understanding of the importance of new and developing technologies such as AI, Doug Ger will bring the necessary strategic leadership to the CMA to enable it to promote growth for the benefit of businesses and consumers. As set out in the Industrial Strategy Green Paper, the Government will shortly be consulting on a new growth-focused strategic steer to the CMA. Whilst respecting the independence of the CMA and the decision-making of its panel members, the steer will be clear about the Government's expectations of the CMA in supporting growth across the economy.
Secretary of State Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for granting this important urgent question. What a desperate state we are in when the Business Secretary has to phone up the regulators to beg them for ideas to fix the lack of growth his own government policies have created. And I hope that when the regulators attended that roundtable last week, including the chairman of the CMA, they had the courage to put at the top of their list scrapping his 150-page, job-destroying, trade union-inspired employment bill, or to point out the jobs tax in the Chancellor's budget, or their socialist attack on inheritance non-doms and the family business death tax that's causing one wealth creator to leave this country every 45 minutes, or even to point out that one of the best opportunities this country has for growth would be to get on a plane to our closest trading partner, the United States, and secure a trade deal, rather than lob juvenile insults at President Trump or fail to invite Elon Musk to the government's UK Investment Summit. Mr. Speaker, it's certainly the case that whilst regulators have a role, we agree they generally depress growth, drive risk aversion, bureaucracy and slow decision-making. Asking regulators to boost growth is a bit like asking the Village Speedwatch to organise the next British Grand Prix. I am a fan of Speedwatch. The Conservative Party is under new management, and we're unafraid to back wealth creators and risk takers. We're unashamed to say we need fewer civil servants and arm's-length regulators so that our businesses carry less deadweight in the global race to be competitive. But dismissing the non-executive, part-time chairman of the CMA seems a curious place to start. He's not responsible for day-to-day decision-making at the CMA. That's the job of the chief executive. Did they aim and miss? Could the Minister confirm if there are plans to change the government's view on the CMA's remit, to play the ball, not the man? And what evaluation of all regulators has there been as part of this process, and when will the government publish that? Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I think there were a couple of questions in there about the role of the CMA chair. Of course, he didn't get sacked. He resigned, and there will be a new strategic steer for the CMA coming out in due course. Now, amongst the tirade of criticisms of this government, which I think is a little bit rich from the man who was in the Treasury when the last government crashed the economy, I would point out to him that only this week PwC announced we were the second most attractive country in the world to invest, and last week the IMF upgraded our growth predictions for this year. And we're now going to be the highest growing economy, major economy in Europe this year. And I think that shows us the determination that we've got to get growth going, something that his government failed completely on.
Gregor Poynton.
Mr. Speaker, getting the right regulatory environment is vital to drive innovation in our economy, but also protect our consumers and markets too. Does the Minister agree with me that this renewed focus on the regulatory environment and getting that right to drive our economy will make sure that this government delivers our number one mission of growth?
Minister.
Thank my honourable friend for his question. He's absolutely right. Growth is the #1 mission for this government, and it's about getting that balance right between protecting consumers and driving up growth for the economy, and then we all benefit, and that's something we're very clear on this side the last government failed to deliver on.
Clive Jones, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The government is right that bold and ambitious steps are needed to get our economy growing again, especially after the damage caused by the previous Conservative government. But we must also recognise that fair competition is the lifeblood of our market economy, which helps drive innovation and ensures economic benefits reach consumers. Does the Secretary of State agree that ensuring proper competition in the economy is vital to achieving sustained growth? I also note that the new interim chair has prior experience running Amazon's UK business. Will the Secretary of State guarantee that the Digital Markets Unit within the CMA will be backed to hold powerful tech giants accountable for the benefit of customers in Wokingham and across the UK?
Minister.
I thank the Liberal Democrat spokesperson for his questions. We're absolutely clear that we do need to protect consumers, but we also need to drive growth. And actually, the new interim chair's experience is really important to help us understand how tech companies are going to be moving forward. His chairmanship of the Turing Institute, I think, is a valuable piece of experience that we'll bring to the table in terms of delivering on that.
John Morrow.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I should declare an interest, having worked for a competition regulator for a number of years before entering Parliament. And can I suggest to the Minister that he does not take his competition policy lessons from the party opposite, who oversaw the remonopolisation of the broadband network, the consolidation of power within tech networks to an unprecedented scale, and the rise of crony capitalism on a scale not seen before. But can I ask the Minister that some of the rumours around this appointment have suggested that this is a signal of a flight away from competition regulation? Can I urge him to quash those rumours and to confirm that this government believes that competition drives investment, innovation and growth, and that this country is open for investment and new market entry by as many companies as possible?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for a question? We absolutely do agree that competition is vital for driving investment and growth, and the operational independence of the CMA will remain in place as it has always done.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The government seems fascinated by the price of Oasis tickets. Meanwhile, debt and the cost of debt is soaring. Should the government maybe, come up with some ideas of their own for growth, rather than trying to copy the homework of regulators?
Minister.
Well, of course, we have our own ideas for growth. We've got important planning reforms coming forward. The industrial strategy drives forward on the strengths of the UK economy. And in terms of his Oasis point, I think he needs to work a little bit harder on that one, I'm afraid.
Sean Hodgson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Over the last 15 years of my dealings with the CMA and my campaign to end the abuse of the secondary ticketing market, I've long felt that the CMA is desperately in need of much stronger and clearer ministerial oversight. So can the Minister today confirm which Minister that will be going forward who will have oversight of the CMA, and that role will be an active role, not just a one in name only?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for a question. And her work on secondary ticketing, which obviously is out for consultation at the moment, I am the Minister responsible for the CMA. There will be a new strategic steer for them issued later in the year, and of course their independence from government will remain in place.
Bob Black.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The clear issue here is why did the previous chair resign, and indeed what remit has the Minister given to the interim chair to change that policy and direction of the CMA. So can he outline that to the House? He says he's going to do it later this year, but he's manoeuvred a position where the previous chair has resigned. So we need to know the answer of what the CMA are going to be doing now to regulate the market.
Minister.
Well, the CMA's operational independence is going to remain intact. We've obviously very clearly set out that there will be a new strategic steer, which will be about boosting growth, and we've decided after conversations that actually new leadership is needed to actually deliver on that.
John Grady.
I'm a
obliged, Mr. Speaker. I should declare that I have, before entering this House, advised as a competition law on various CMA matters, including investigations and panels. May I say, Mr. Speaker, some of the criticisms from the bench opposite seem to be half the world away to Channel Oasis from the topic in question and economic reality. However, would the Minister confirm that yesterday's announcement does not change the independence of the individual CMA panels which deal with matters before the CMA?
Minister.
No, I thank my honourable friend for his question and absolutely can confirm the operational independence of the CMA remains intact.
Bobby Dean.
Mr. Speaker, we live in an age where the power invested in large corporations is bigger than ever, and we have got tech giants exerting monopolistic power over the market. So I'm getting a bit exasperated with the government's attitude, it seems Thatcherite-like, towards deregulation. So does the government understand the risks involved in going for short-term boosts to growth to the long-term stability of the economic market?
I thank him for his question. I wouldn't accept that characterisation at all. I'm sure the members in the official opposition would not either. Of course, we've only just announced this morning that we'll be taking action against Amazon in terms of sales of knives, so I don't think the characterisation of us being in the pocket of big tech is at all accurate.
Luke Charles.
Speaker, the CMA took far too long to reach a decision on the Vodafone and 3 merger, and this slowed down the rollout of 5G across all of our constituencies and was a drag on growth. So can my honourable friend confirm how regulators can be pushed to ensure that their decisions lead to growth?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question. It is absolutely right that we need to give confidence to the business community that when they're making investments, that decisions will be made quickly, there will be certainty, and that they can move forward with their decisions to benefit the whole economy off the back of that.
Sir Desmond Swayne.
The impact on growth of the record number of millionaires who've left the UK since the budget?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure the CMA's role is to monitor the number of millionaires leaving the country.
Speaker, in 2023, the last Conservative Chancellor, the Right Honourable Member for Godalming and Ash, said that the CMA must, quote, understand their wider responsibilities, end quote, after the CMA blocked a particular merger. And then he also went on to say, quote, I do think it's important all our regulators understand their wider responsibilities for economic growth. He was...
Yes, he was right, and that's the message the Prime Minister set out to the regulators at the Investment Summit. That's why they've been invited in to give their ideas on growth. We don't think it's a problem asking regulators how they're going to stimulate growth. It is the #1 mission of this government, and everyone should be signed up to delivering on that.
Glynis Meddy.
The government says that the CMA chair had failed to convince them he was sufficiently focused on growth, but at the same time, reports suggest that the government planned to freeze all rail spending except for 3 projects in England. A lack of transport funding is stifling growth in Welsh economy. To prove his commitment to growth, will he outline the transport funding his government has committed to Wales?
I thank the honourable lady for her question. Unfortunately, transport funding is, and particularly in Wales, is well outside the remit of the CMA.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does my honourable friend agree with me that the UK's economic regulators have a responsibility to ensure supersonic growth in our economy with a pro-business approach, and this is part of what I would term a responsibility agenda? We all have a responsibility, and they do too, to ensure the best for our economy.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question. He's absolutely right. We all need to be signed up to this agenda. It is absolutely critical for delivering on our aims, getting a better growing economy, getting more money into people's pockets, delivering on the promises that we've made, and changing the tune from the last 14 years of decline.
Sir Julian Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Changing personnel is one thing, but when you speak to business, resolving disputes and the way that the CMA resolve dispute is key. Could I urge the Minister to look at how disputes are resolved and whether litigation and an antagonistic approach to business is the best way for the CMA to proceed?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question. I think that is a very fair comment. We need to give businesses certainty and clarity that things will be resolved quickly and that they will have confidence moving forward that investment decisions will be made.
Olivia Benn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister confirm how the Department plans to appoint the permanent chair?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for a question. The appointment of the permanent chair will take place in the normal manner as all other appointments do.
David Chadwick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An active regulator is essential for securing fair prices for consumers, and residents in areas like mine are often at the forefront of rises in petrol prices. And residents in Pontedour are often left wondering why they often have to pay 8 pence more per litre than in nearby towns. Will the government commit to launching the Pump Watch petrol price comparison platform as recommended by the Competition and Markets Authority?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for that question. I think that's a very important point. It is something that consumers visibly see every time they leave their homes and their motor vehicles, that there is a disparity there that sometimes needs some explanation. It certainly needs transparency, so I will take that up for him and come back to him on that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Constituents of mine, particularly those living in Crookford in East Renfrewshire, have terrible mobile phone signal. Can I also ask about the merger between Three and Vodafone and how the CMA can progress that so that we have the investment needed into transmitters to improve the mobile phone signal in areas like Crookford but also around the country?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. Certainly that's something that the CMA have been dealing with, and I'm sure that we can provide him with an update on where that is shortly.
Mr. Speaker, will the Minister ask the Competition and Markets Authority to investigate why we have the highest energy prices in the world, particularly electricity?
Certainly pass that request on. I think that might be something that Ofgem would also have an interest in.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for his responses so far. Would he agree with me that actually the first role of the Competition and Markets Authority is to ensure that regulation is followed, that they break up monopolies, and actually at a time whenever our small businesses are suffering and the national insurance increase has not helped in that regard, would he agree with me that that is actually their first duty? If they take decisions that just so happen to have a byproduct of stimulating economic growth, that's as well as may be. But the narrative that actually taking away regulation is just going to promote growth in itself is wrong.
It might be worth putting in for an adjournment debate. Minister.
Well, I thank the honourable member for her question. It is important that consumers and small businesses operate on a level playing field. It is also correct that something that we are very keen to see is more growth delivered, and we think that will benefit everyone in the economy. But I absolutely take the point that the balance has to be struck there.
Mr Grady, I think you've asked a question. Yeah, I think the whips need to be advising a bit more. Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I thank the Minister very much for his answers? The role of the CMA chair is essential in the current economic climate. As we watch how our allies in the US of A approach their trading and deals, we need a message of strength in relaying that fact that we are ready and open for international business. So does the Minister believe that this interim measure sends that message? And how quickly can we get the right person in place to promote our business standing? Thank you so much.
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question. We are really serious about growth. This is about sending a message that we want to make sure that Britain is open for investment, that we work with partners across the world to encourage that kind of investment, get that growth that we want to see to benefit the entire economy. And this is just one part of that plan.
Okay. That completes the urgent question. I'll let the front bench change over.